feeling like I'm academics. Can't ride away.
Let's go to this, and then I think the next person is I think they had choke no joke on here.
Charges. He says the day will come. You said this when you start.
So this guy is the lawyer Tony Busby, who essentially says he has 120 extra clients, and there was 3,000 people who called in before the hotline. So this guy has all the people. Hear this.
Naming names. When will that day be, and how big are these names that we're talking about?
Yeah, people are very interested in that, of course. That comment.
Now, here's the reality about this, chat, and I got to try to explain to you the civil process. Remember, a civil, like if you're pursuing a issue in civil court, you're not trying to essentially get people locked up. Maybe you've exhausted those options of trying to work with authorities, trying to get someone locked up, but maybe authorities say you don't have no evidence to get that person locked up. We don't have no proof. So people go around the civil realm to get paid, to get money, compensation, to be righted for what they feel is a wrong. And if you look at the burden of proof in terms of a civil lawsuit versus a criminal lawsuit, in a criminal lawsuit, it is, you have to prove beyond a shadow of a doubt. So, it has to be unanimous, and there has to be no question that this person did A, B, C, or D that you could convict. In a civil suit is what they call preponderance of evidence. And preponderance of evidence means that, based on the evidence, it weighs in the direction that this would happen. And that's very different because here's the thing. Even if the evidence may point to someone, like say killing someone, you need to, before you vote that you're going to convict them of murder in a criminal case, you have to be sure beyond a reasonable doubt. As opposed to a civil case, the preponderance, which means, the overwhelming nature of the evidence, suggests or kind of, presents that will be what happened. So there's two different statutes or two different, weighting scales that you use, and this is where this guy comes in.
Comment has been repeated back to me, as you might imagine, many times. And people are, waiting with bated breath, hoping that, I'm going to.
My bad. I sometimes I start talking and I forget what I'm saying. So I'm going to be honest with you. What I've heard is this, okay? I won't say unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately. I heard people are settling. I heard there are people who you guys, and I've heard 3 names so far, that you guys have said, why they ain't talk yet? Why they ain't speaking up? I heard they have been contacted by these attorneys. It's a reason why they did a press conference before they filed, and they told you they won't file for a month. I'll tell you why. The cases they have, the 120, they think there's something there they could get money. They didn't think that, the 120 is bullshit. They got contacted by 3,000 people. What I hear is happening is this, and check this out, Chad. They've reached out to a few other individuals to say, hey, listen, this lawsuit's going to come down. You're going to be a co-defendant with the lawsuit. It's going to be you and Diddy. Now everybody's going to think you're Diddy. Maybe you fuck some other bitches. Maybe you used to have your own freak-offs. Maybe there's going to be other girls coming for you. Now, we could leave you out of the lawsuit and we could only sue Diddy, but you're going to have to pay us, bro. So what I hear is happening right now is them saying to people, you could pay us an amount that we don't sue you with Diddy, because if we include you with Diddy, the public sees you as Diddy. And once they see you as Diddy, other people are going to jump out the woodworks. You're going to get in a lot of trouble. So if you got to pay us $150,000, maybe if you got to pay us like $300,000, just do that and leave this shit alone. And I hear it's happening a lot. So if you wonder why we're hearing about these 120 lawsuits, but we haven't seen a lawsuit, all these appearances on, national media, it's to kind of let people know, pay up. or we're gonna violate.
Name these big celebrity names. But I can tell you this. I look at it in this context. If you
And
attended,
by the way, he's not gonna name names until those celebrities decline to work with him, right? If they decline to talk about a settlement because they want to go to court, all right, cool. We're gonna put you in a lawsuit, bet. But if they talk to him and be like, all right, cool, yo, really, I was never really involved, but like, yo, bro, I don't want my name involved with this shit. Diddy's was my guy. How can we get it out? How can we make sure that my name is not mentioned? They might be like, all right, bet you got to pay us $200,000, and we're good. And some of those people I've heard, they're paying the money.
did one of these events, and we're talking about, we've heard about the white party and the freak offs and the after parties, but there's also, impromptu parties at studios, after parties from concerts, album release parties, hotel parties. I mean, the list goes on and on. But in my view, if you attended those and you saw or knew that somebody was being given drugs, that their drinks were being drugged, and you sat by and either participated in some of this activity or encouraged this activity or allowed it to go on and helped cover it up, or were in the room while it was happening and said nothing and did not intervene, and perhaps attended more of these parties knowing that this type of conduct was going to occur, it's my view, that may not be the criminal justice system's view, but it's certainly my view that you're complicit. And we intend to name people in these lawsuits. We're not going to do it in interviews. We're not going to do it, without doing our due diligence, because obviously, these types of allegations are very hurtful to people.
So when he says this is like a negotiating and bargaining tool. We're going to name y'all. So now when they go to people, hey, you're one of the people we're going to name, pay us $200,000, we don't name you.
If they're not true, and very hurtful, frankly, if they are true. But if they're true, you shouldn't have been in the room and you shouldn't have been participating. So I anticipate that we're going to start filing lawsuits, and it may not be big names at first, but we have a long list of names. And you might imagine in situations like this, that when a victim tells us that this person was in the room or this person participated, we want to do as much due diligence as humanly possible before we file that case, because in the United States, in almost every state, public filings are in fact public. And, when you name somebody in a lawsuit, the press is going to pick it up, and we're aware of that. So we're going to make sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's. And I expect that there will be some people named in these lawsuits that will raise some eyebrows.
Right. I mean, how big an eyebrow raise are we talking about? Because you've been hearing a lot of names, presumably, in the process of all these calls coming in. And you're a pretty smart lawyer, so you can probably work out the wheat from the chaff in terms of legitimate, plausible claims here in terms of victims. Are we talking about names as big as Diddy, potentially?
I expect so. I expect so. Obviously those are the names that people are interested in, but I've tried to make sure people focus also on corporate entities, to include banks and hotels and perhaps even pharmaceutical entities that were maybe not directly involved, but were certainly benefiting and profiting from this kind of activity. Those I'm interested in as well. But we've seen all over social media the pictures and video of all the various individuals that attended these parties. And look, I was born at night, but I wasn't born last night. I know that at these
Love that saying. I was born at night, just not last night.
These types of parties, things go on. I know that there's, sex is, occurs out in the open and things like that. That's not illegal and that's not probably actionable. What I'm focused on is when people are lured to these parties, coerced at these parties, given illicit drugs at this party without their knowledge, and then they're taken advantage of. And people in the room know this is happening and participate in it and do nothing about it and then tacitly cover it up. Those people, in my mind, are just as liable as the individuals who engage directly in the activity.
And of the 120 cases you've taken on so far, what percentage involve minors? And what is the split of male and female alleged victims?
It's about 25 out of the 120, but as you might imagine, since we did the press conference, that number is growing.
25 minors or?
25 minors out of the
Wow.
120 clients. Yes, sir. And the minors, they kind of fall into two categories. One would be the category of individuals with stars in their eyes trying to break into the entertainment industry, who were either scouted or somehow found their way to a studio or to a location where they were being screened, and either the allegation is Mr. Combs himself or those around him involved took advantage of these people in some sort of quid pro quo to try to make them a star. And in some of these cases, it was the parents who were essentially handing their child off to a group of people that they trusted and who they thought were going to make their child a star. That's one group. The second group of minors would be individuals who were recruited, whether it be in a hotel lobby, whether it be at a show from the crowd, invited to a after concert party that made its way to a hotel, whether it be to some of the parties that we all heard about. They went there at age 16. There's a few that, for instance, attended a party in the Hamptons and they were only 16 and taken advantage of there. So it pretty runs the gamut. But it's the allegations obviously are very egregious. We have to be very careful and responsible about how we pursue these. These are individual cases, will be filed. Each case will live or die on its own merits. Each case will have one or more defendants. In some cases, they'll all, they may be different. Some will be filed in New York. I would expect most of them will be filed because New York has a statute of limitations that's pretty generous. New York State has recognized that these types of allegations, it takes people a long time to come forward. It takes a lot of courage to come forward. So New York has recognized that. I think California has too. So I would expect most of these cases will be filed in those two states. And we're gonna pursue these cases aggressively. And the reason for the press conference is because I wanted to make sure that we, Sean Combs obviously has been arrested. He's been indicted. His bail has been denied, I think, 3 times at this point. I don't expect he's going anywhere. We want to make sure that every entity and every individual who had some role in this, that we examine that, and if the law supports it, that we bring them in and make them a part of this case as well.
And just on that second point about the gender split here, there have been lots of rumors that it's not just women or girls who've been involved in being abused here, but also young boys and young men. Can you clarify how many of your own cases are male?
I would say that number is 50-50. According to the client group, it looks like when you try to, if you were to graph it, the number of males increased dramatically after 2015. We've looked at this client group and vetted it in so many different ways, as you would expect, that you can see a trend that the number of males involved increased somewhere around the 2015 timeframe. I don't know why that is, but that's what the numbers show.
And based on the volume of claims you're getting, does that mean that these widespread rumors about Diddy's sexuality are likely to be true?
Yeah, I won't comment on that. I can only comment on the allegations that are being made, that will be made in a public filing. And I'll let...
Man, this nigga doing the most. Anyway, yo, chat, let me tell you this. You know what I've realized about this industry, chat? Diddy clearly isn't Jay-Z. And I think Diddy didn't do himself any favors with maybe some of his competitive practices, some of the actions he took that other people probably resented or probably thought they were competing with him. But you know what I've realized? Ever since we've heard about 3,000 people hitting up a hotline and, oh, they got a hotline and there's 120 more people, and then they're threatening or they're saying, oh, there's more names. You know what I've realized? Everybody is almost saying, oh, people finally. It's the first time I see everybody admitting, oh, some of y'all lying. Which is so ironic. You know why people would even believe 120 people? Because of some of these exact people who have told us Diddy's a monster. Gene Deal, Gene Deal was telling us he's a monster. And I'm like, well, if a nigga's a monster and he got all this money and he's been operating as a monster for like 30 years, why wouldn't we believe he was a monster to 100 people? It's like, well, I don't believe. So we're looking at Gene Deal like, what you mean you don't believe? You said he was a monster. But I ain't gonna lie, 50 Cent too. 50 Cent been like, oh my God, he's promoting this whole thing like he's financing this whole Diddy's a monster shit. Look at this. Look at this, Chad. 50 posts, caught this bitch lying. And it was a thing saying TMZ has allegedly obtained a text exchange between Diddy's accuser, Thalia Graves, and her ex-boyfriend where she offers him 7 figures to corroborate her claim. Here's what I'm trying to say. The people who have been promoting that Diddy's a monster, I'm not saying they shouldn't be fair and be like, oh no, we found someone who's lying. But yeah, I do realize the reason why everybody believes every claim is because y'all told us to, right? Like, when I hear, let me try to Google this. Look. Diddy's R-word accuser's ex claims she offered bribe. $3 million if you back my story. Diddy's latest accuser, who's suing him for allegedly R-wording her and recording it, and is trying to get her now ex-boyfriend to corroborate her claims by paying him 7 figures, according to the ex, TMZ has learned. Thalia Graves is suing Diddy and his head of security, Joseph Sherman, for allegedly R-wording her back in 2001. And in the suit, she's saying she was dating one of Diddy's employees who was shown a video of the alleged incident. However, TMZ has seen a 2023 November text exchange between Thalia and the man who was her boyfriend, and in it she revealed she was planning to sue Diddy because he's the one that has the money. Wow. It also appears that she offers to give the boyfriend $3 million if he agrees to back her version of the alleged events. After asking him to attest he's seen the alleged video of the incident, the actual text reads, "What do you N3 mil?" What do you N3? I don't know what it is. We've actually spoken to Thalia's ex, who confirmed the validity of the text messages and told us he interpreted that as an attempted bribe. After he received the text, he blocked Thalia's number and blocked her on social media. What's more, we're told that Diddy's lawyers also have a copy of the same text we've reviewed between Thalia and her then boyfriend. Thalia's attorney, Gloria Allred, tells TMZ it's very common that rich, powerful men and their supporters attempt to discredit, shame, humiliate accusers who have the courage to come forward. The complaint speaks for itself. Our client is looking forward to her day in court. You recall Allred and Graves held a press conference after filing the lawsuit, which was incredibly emotional. Thalia sobbed as she talked about the physical and mental trauma caused by the alleged R word. Since the lawsuit was filed, Diddy's former security head has claimed he never met her and was not working for Diddy at the time of the alleged assault. That is interesting. Really fucking interesting.
People draw their own conclusions, but I will say that 50% of the alleged victims are in fact male, and that includes the minors that were minors at the time of the allegations.
I mean, it's truly shocking, some of these statistics you're giving. In relation to tapes or videos and stuff that you've been told about or has come into your possession, have you seen material, evidential material, which in your estimation as a lawyer could cross the line into criminal activity?
That's a difficult question. As most of your viewers know, the standard of proof in a civil case versus a criminal case is very different. In a criminal case, you have to prove your case beyond a reasonable doubt. That's why the federal authorities, they typically won't bring a case unless it's rock solid. And I'm sure they talked to a lot of people. They collected a lot of evidence. And, from all of that, there's only 3 counts. The civil system is the standard of proof is preponderance of the evidence. Well, I like to describe it when I'm in court as more likely than not. And so when you look at these videos and pictures and bottles of oil that I've received and other things that we've been given, the piece of evidence, the piece of physical evidence or the video in and of itself doesn't really prove anything. You see a sexual act being performed on video, but you need a witness or the victim to kind of put this in context. You see some sexual act that was captured by a third party on video. You still have to have somebody to say, okay, that individual who was engaged in that's who that is, and this individual who was engaged in that was drugged. And
yeah, I'm gonna be honest with you. If this is true about the Thalia situation, I think this is gonna be tossed. Here's the thing, and we're not trying to bail Diddy out at all, right? Like, literally or figuratively. The reality of this is this. It appears that Diddy had some victims, and Diddy was doing some bullshit. Cassie is clearly someone who I think we all have identified as, she was a victim. What's gonna probably help Diddy in the court of public opinion is some of these other people's, like this woman. She came in crying the whole time. And if she was sending messages to people saying, allegedly she had sent a message to, someone saying, hey, I want to involve you in the lawsuit if you back my story. And then she sent another message to someone else to say, if you back my story, I'll give you some money. That's going to be tossed. If that exculpatory evidence is proven or shown initially, this is not even going to go to having a trial. It's going to be seen as bullshit. So we're going to see how this works out. Okay? All right. Let me hit a few of these other topics real quick. Here we go. By the way, did you hear Cat Williams talking about this? Hilarious.
That's my point. You can't be so happy to change shit that you fuck up your life. You know how many celebrities went to Diddy's house thinking they was finna dance? How does that feel? You a grown ass man. You gotta leave Diddy party like that. You can't even sit down in the car. You gotta drive all the way home, standing up.
Chat. Obviously, shout out to Cat Williams. This nigga sounds like an oracle at this point. Chat, how we're gonna proceed with this, chat? Like, I'm asking y'all sincerely. There's few people who sound like that they have legitimate gripes. They sound like they have firsthand knowledge. And then there's people who sound like maybe they got done wrong. Maybe they got violated, but not necessarily in a sexual assault or sex trafficking capacity. I do believe that we're going to see a few lawsuits being tossed before Diddy's ultimate fate is decided. Are we going to take those to say Diddy was set up, or are we going to say, nah, he was guilty, just maybe not guilty of like 400 of them, but he was probably guilty of like 5. But still, guilty is guilty. How are we going to take that? Because that's going to be very important, if you ask me. What do y'all think?